everyone, welcome back. I'm Di, and today I am doing the mid-year book freakout tag, I was tagged by Bobby, aka Paginator, a few weeks ago. And so I'm finally getting around to doing it now. So we're actually going to be doing like a quarter year freakout tag at this point because we are there. So I'm going to encompass all of the books that I read from the beginning of the year till now in this one. So I believe the original creator of this tag was Chami, but the video that she had done is no longer on her channel, so I'll just link her channel down in the description below, as well as Bobby's channel, so definitely go check them out. And so let's get into it. First question is, best book read in 2024. So for this one, I couldn't choose just one. I decided to go with Haikyuu volumes 38 through 45. Those are the volumes of Haikyuu that I've read this year. All of them were 5 stars for me, and I finished the series. Just a really enjoyable story about a boys' high school volleyball team who have fallen down the ranks throughout the years and is trying to make their way back to the top. Really enjoyable series, and some of my only 5-star reads of this year. In fact, the majority of my 5 stars were those volumes. So, next question is best sequel read. And for this one, I'm going to have to go with 86, Volume 2 in the light novel. This one is by Asato, illustrated by Shirabi, and has mechanical designs by 1-4. This is a light novel series that is set in a world where there is a war happening against a intelligent mechanical army, and the government has told their people that they are actually fighting this legion with unmanned mechanical units as well, so they're able to fight the war without having casualties, but that is a complete lie, and they are using a sector of their society to pilot these machines, and there's mass casualties, and it's a really interesting story. I'm really enjoying it. I just read the second light novel in August, and really enjoyable, and I'm looking forward to continuing with those. So the next question is new release I haven't read yet, and so for this one I'm going to go with A Ghoul's Gotta Do, which is the 11th book in the Ghost Hunter Mystery series by Victoria Laurie. I just haven't bought this book yet, and I really should so that I can read it. But it is the most recent installment in a series that I thought was finished at Volume 10. The author even said Volume 10 is the last one. And so it was a surprise when she came and said that she was working on an 11th one. And I've heard rave reviews about it. Lots of people that enjoy the Ghost Hunter Mystery series really enjoyed this new installment. And the Ghost Hunter Mysteries is just one of my most favorite series. I did a reread of it this year in anticipation of the 11th book, and I still haven't read the 11th book. So, need to get on that. The fourth question is, what is my most anticipated book for the second half of the year? And for this one, I'm going to go with Run with the Wind. This one is by Shion Miura, and I just saw the announcement for this one. I think it's coming out in October. This is the novel that the anime and live action movie was based on. Run with the Wind is about a college long distance running team, and it's about this guy who has this dream of getting a team together and running the Hakone Marathon, and he finally gets a team together, and so we watch them work their way towards that goal. It's a really good series. Again, it's one that we've rewatched a couple of times. Didn't ever think we would get the actual novel translated, and it looks like we are getting it, so I'm very excited for that. So that's definitely an anticipated release for me for the remaining part of this year. Fifth question is, what was my biggest disappointment this year? And for this one, I'm going to have to go with Killing Stalking. I read volumes 1 and 2. This one is by Kugi. This is a web novel or webtoon that is a kind of mystery suspense story about a guy who ends up breaking into this other guy's house who he kind of has an infatuation with, and ends up becoming a prisoner of this guy. And it's just not what I thought it was going to be. Like, I've heard amazing things said about this series, and for me, it is not an enjoyable series to read. It's very difficult because the series is full of physical, sexual, and emotional abuse. And I no, no, absolutely not. I had 2 volumes in my collection. I read the 2 volumes and I'm not reading anymore. So definitely a huge disappointment for me. The next question is, what was the biggest surprise for me this year? And for me, I'm going to go with Delicious in Dungeon by Ryoko Kui. We are currently reading this series for the Monochrome Manga Club, which is an in-real-life manga club that I host at a local Barnes & Noble. We do 2 first-in-a-series reads, and we're currently doing 2 full series reads, and Delicious in Dungeon is one of the series reads that we're doing. We are almost done. We will be finishing Delicious in Dungeon in September, and I'm really, really looking forward to it. If you had asked me if I would have wanted to continue with this series after reading the first volume, I would have told you no. That's how uninterested I was when we had finished reading the first volume. I never even had this series on my radar. It wasn't one that I was interested in purchasing. It wasn't one that I was interested in reading. But one of our Monochrome Manga Club members had suggested it as a series read during our meetings. And so the rest of the members wanted to read it. And so I thought, okay, what the heck? And that first volume was just like, yep, I was right. I have no interest in this, but we read 2 volumes a month, and so I went ahead and read the second one because I had to. I mean, I lead these meetings, and I much enjoyed the second volume and have enjoyed every volume ever since. And so I would have to say that this is definitely my biggest surprise of my reads this year. The next question is new favorite author, and for this one, I cannot think of an answer for. I can tell you that I've read a couple new authors to me this year. There's one author that I've read 2 books from this year that I really enjoyed, but I wouldn't say that she's a favorite author because I don't think I'd read any of her other books. So the author that I'm actually talking about is Ali Hazelwood. I read Bride, which is a supernatural romance book, and I read Check and Mate, which is a young adult romance. And both of those worked for me for different reasons. I think Check and Mate worked for me because it is YA romance, and it had to do with chess, which was an interesting thing for me to read about because I don't know a lot about chess, and I've always kind of wanted to understand how that game works. And so it was interesting for me to see the character go to the tournaments and prep and all of that stuff. And the romance was secondary, I feel like, to the chess stuff. So that's why that one worked for me. And then Bride, I really enjoy paranormal stories. This one is to do with the romance between a vampire and a werewolf. And I enjoyed the world that was set up and things like that. And so that one worked for me as well. Highly enjoyable. They weren't 5-star reads for me, but I enjoyed them. They were very entertaining reads. Now, Ali Hazelwood does a lot of STEM romances, and I have no interest. And I don't think that just a normal contemporary romance is going to work for me because I'm not the type of person who normally enjoys contemporary romance. There's got to be some other pull for me in order to be able to enjoy a story like that, and it doesn't seem like the rest of her romances have that for me. So I will probably try to read one of them, but I don't think that she has enough material for me or has enough of a pull for me to say that she's a favorite author. If I had seen another book in her paranormal romance genre or even the YA romance, depending on what it was about, I would probably pick it up because I do find her writing style to be very easy to read. but I wouldn't say that she's a favorite author. For me, a favorite author has to be somebody that I'm like, oh my gosh, I really, really love their whole collection of work. I would purchase and buy everything that they've written. And obviously, based on what I've just said on Allie Hazelwood, that is not the case for me. And she's really the only new author that I've read more than one thing of this year that's kind of like novel. Like, I am enjoying 86. So I guess you could say Asato. Asato is another author that I would enjoy, but I've only read 2. I've read them from the same series, so I can't really say that I would like consider them a favorite author either. So I had a really hard time with this one, and I'm just gonna go with no. I don't have a new favorite author this year, and just be done with it. The next question is your newest fictional crush. And so I haven't found one this year. I've kind of had a mid-reading year. I'm struggling with the books that I'm picking up and not enjoying them as much as I thought I would. So I read a bunch of haiku this year. And even though this isn't a new fictional crush, I would say it's my probably only fictional crush for this year, and it's going to be Bokuto. Bokuto from Haikyuu. He is one of my favorite characters from this series. I just really enjoy when he's on page. He's silly. He definitely has a personality that I really enjoy reading, and I enjoy like his hijinks and things like that. And so even though he's not new to me, I'm going to go with Bokuto for this question this year, because I've read a lot of volumes that he's been in this year, and he's the only person I could really say that I enjoyed on page a lot. And so, yeah. New favorite character. So this one was hard for me as well, because like I said, I've had a hard time with my reads this year. And so for this one, I think I'm going to go with Shin and Vladilena from 86. So 86 was one of those series that I read the first volume of the light novel, I think in January, and just like was obsessed. Immediately went and watched the anime, both seasons, and it's just been one of those things that I really, really want to know more about how the characters in this series are going to live their lives and how the society in this world is going to change. And Shin and Vladilena aren't the only like characters that I enjoy from 86. Like, I enjoy the main team that we're with. But I feel like there's going to be more in the relationship department between Shin and Vladilena, or Lena. They call her Lena throughout the series. As we progress through this series, like, they seem to have good chemistry in what I read, and I have a feeling that they may end up together, and I would enjoy seeing that, I think. And so for me, I'm going to go with those are my favorite characters specifically, but I do really enjoy like the whole squad from 86. So yes. The next question is a book that made me cry. And I am not a person that gets really emotional reading things. You've got to like really pull me in order to get me to shed some tears. And again, haven't had a really great reading year. So for this one, I'm going to go with the book that made me the most emotional without crying. And so for that, I'm going to go with Haikyuu volumes 41 and 42. There's just something that happens in those two volumes that really, really got me emotionally, but I did not cry. So I can't even tell you what it's about because it would be spoilers. But just know that it made me emotional enough that I would consider that for this prompt. So that's what I'm going with for that one. The next question is a book that made me happy. For this one, I'm going to go with Snow Fairy by Tomo Serizawa. This is a one-shot BL manga about a guy who lives in the country, and he stumbles across a nature photographer out in the wild, trying to capture a photograph of a snow fairy, and these two end up having a romantic interest in one another. And it's just a really, really sweet story. I remember telling my daughter about this one, and she's like, just by the way that you're talking about this, I can tell that you really enjoyed this one. I definitely enjoyed it. It's a super clean BL romance, and it was just really, really sweet. Definitely a little bit emotional as well with some of the things that happened in our character's backstory, but I enjoyed it enough that I went out and bought myself a physical copy because I read a borrowed copy from my library, and I absolutely had to have this one in my collection. The next question is favorite book to movie adaptation. And so for this one, I'm going to go with a manga to movie adaptation. For me, this was my favorite adaptation of the ones that I've seen this year, and this is going to have to be the Dumpster Battle movie from Haikyuu. My daughter and I went to go see this one 3 times in the theaters, and it was just so great seeing things that you read come to life on screen. There is a part of this movie towards the very end that did get me emotionally, where I actually cried almost all 3 times. 2 out of 3 times I shed tears at this movie. And like I said, I am not the type of person that gets super emotional. You have to really draw me in. And that is how much I love Haikyuu. And all of the people that we met throughout this series. I just got so attached. So attached to these characters. And so, yes, this has to be my favorite book to movie adaptation. I will say I watched 2 other adaptations this year that I really enjoyed, but not as much as the Dumpster Battle movie. And that would have to be Red, White, and Royal Blue and The Boys in the Boat. I've read Red, White, and Royal Blue this year, which is what prompted me to watch the adaptation. And while the adaptation is different from the book, I still enjoyed the adaptation. And The Boys in the Boat, I have not read the novel, but I really, really enjoyed the movie. And so definitely had to mention those 2 as well. The next question is a favorite video that you've done this year. And I don't really stray far from the types of videos that I do. So for this one, I'm going to have to say that it's going to be my travel vlog for this year, which was to Disneyland. And that was part of my Desus 19 Diaries Vacation Edition. I'll link it up in the cards and in the description below. But it's just one of those things that I don't get to do often because I don't travel often. We don't do lots of like fun and exciting things all the time. So when I'm able to do an on-site kind of vlog, a travel vlog, it's always fun for me. And so I would have to say that's probably the favorite thing that I've put out this year for me. The next one is, what is the most beautiful book you've read this year? And for me, I was having a hard time with this one because I read a lot of manga, and a lot of manga covers are beautiful to me. But when you're talking about beautiful covers and manga covers are always part of the mangaka's art style. And so you're really like saying, oh, I enjoy this mangaka's art style. So like, for example, one of the things I've read this year that I really enjoy the mangaka's art style, Villains Are Destined to Die Volume 3. I think the covers on this series are absolutely gorgeous, but it all comes down to the mangaka's art style. Same thing for Yakuza Fiancé Volume 3. I really enjoy the mangaka's art style, but that's all that's on this cover is the mangaka's art style. So I wouldn't necessarily say they're like beautiful. I would say the mangaka's art style is beautiful. So in looking back at all of the other things that I've read that weren't manga this year, the only thing that I could say has a beautiful cover to me is Sweet Nightmare, which is the first book in the Calder Academy series by Tracy Wolff. I think this cover is very pretty. But when I think about beautiful books, I much prefer books that have this type of art style as opposed to a drawing. Does that make sense? So this will have to be the most beautiful book in the novels that I've read this year. What book do you need to read before the end of the year? And so for me, I'm going to go with My Happy Marriage in the light novel, volume 7. I just purchased this a couple weeks ago. I'm reading volume 6 right now. This is a series that I am usually up to date with, so that means every time that one comes out, I read it immediately, and I am behind. So I need to get volume 7 read, especially because something that I've been waiting for a while should be happening in this volume. And so I'm really, really looking forward to it. And so I definitely need to read it before the end of the year. And then the last question is to tag somebody. And, we are almost done with the year. And so I'm sure a lot of people have already done this tag. But if you haven't and would like to be tagged, please consider yourself tagged. I would really love to watch your video, even if it's a quarter year freak out book tag like what I'm doing right now. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have for you today. And let me know down in the comments below if you have done this tag. I would really love to go watch it. Or let me know if you have any specific answers to any of the questions that were posed. And if nothing else, and you'd just like to let me know that you were here, if you could leave me any color heart emoji down in the comments below, that would be greatly appreciated and would really help me out. And that will do it for me today. So I hope you're all doing great. I hope you're all safe and healthy. And until next time, take care and smile always. Bye.